There we go. I think we're live now. God bless you. Thank you for being with me tonight. You're watching Christian Crossfire, and I am your host, the Red Rooster. We're going to start talking about things leading up to Christmas on our Sunday night live Bible study. So this Sunday night, if everything works out, 8:45 ish, we're going to start bringing in some Christmas Bible studies, talking about the coming of the promised child of Christ, early prophecies up to the birth of Christ. We'll see how far we get. So be with us Sunday night, 8:45 ish p.m. Thank you for watching. Obviously on Sunday night or Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. Continue to share, like, follow. The more you share, just to let you know, the better your odds are of making it to heaven. So I'll share these as much as possible. I'm joking. So we're going to talk a little bit about darkness has to flee tonight. I don't know exactly which route we'll take. I was going to study on the kingdom. I was going to break it back down to some very basics again. It's been a while since I've been over some of the principles, so I might tonight, but I think I'm going to stick with it that the darkness has to flee. We're going to start out in Isaiah, this ninth chapter. Um, no, we're not. We're going to start out at Genesis. I love to do this. Genesis, the first chapter. Uh, I'm just going to start the first verse down, just the first three, verse 4, first 5 verses. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Verses 1 and verse 2 are a paragraph. Verse 3 through 5 starts another one. And God said, "Let there be light." This is the actual order of which verses 1 and 2 were done. This is the first thing God said. God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. When God speaks his knowledge, his word, that is God's light. And when God's light shines, everything outside of the light that does not absorb or receive or believe or come in line with the light has to flee. It's darkness. And that's why he says God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Now, a lot of people believe that this, and I'm not going to get into that subject of the light tonight, but a lot of people believe that that was a natural light, and whatever, that's fine. Even when Paul was on his way down to Damascus, there was a light brighter than the sun that shined down upon him, which was Jesus. So you see where I'm going with this. But God saw the light that it was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. Anytime God's light goes forth, it cannot abide and have communion with darkness. That darkness has to eventually flee. And that's what it does in our lives. When we receive the knowledge of God, the light of God, or the light of the gospel, the darkness that God shows us that's in us, once we see the knowledge of God and we have the power to make the right decisions, the right choices, God expects us to make that decision. And we either let the light in and the darkness begins to flee. We have power then over the darkness, or we begin to resist or to reject the light, and therefore the darkness in us will begin to grow. And that's just basics of light and darkness. But he says, and God called the light day. Now you go over to 1 Thessalonians 5th chapter, it says we're the children of the day, now the children of the night. It's not talking about a 12 or 24-hour period. It's talking a spiritual day and a spiritual night. So anyway, it's the beginning of the Bible. And God's called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And I'm just going to let that go. But the first thing that came out of God's mouth in creation was light. It was knowledge. And that knowledge was divided from the darkness. Doesn't matter when. But what he's saying is that light and darkness cannot abide together. Now, I want you to go to Isaiah, the 9th chapter. And notice, well, no, I'm not going to get into that. Isaiah, the 9th chapter says, nevertheless, this is prophecy of the light, I believe, in Genesis 1 and 3. I believe that light that God first spoke, that divided light from darkness, I believe that light finally came into the world in the person of Jesus Christ. Nevertheless, the dimness, this is Isaiah 9:1, nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. This is prophecy coming up in Luke, the first chapter, and we'll compare them. And afterward did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea beyond Jordan and Galilee of the nations. Listen to what it says. The people that walked in darkness, what did they do? They seen a great light. Now, what light was it? Was it Genesis 1 and 3? People's going to argue that and talk about it. Some will say no, some will say yes, whatever. But the point is, there was a spiritual light that they seen. They didn't see the light that Paul seen when he was struck down his way to Damascus so much. Everybody as a whole, they seen a spiritual light. But when they were sitting in darkness, they did not let that light in, because it says he came to his own received him not. He came to that darkness. And when you receive the light, when that light comes into the darkness, if you actually receive it, that darkness has to flee. But the people love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. That's St. John 3rd chapter. So it says the people that walked, and I want you to compare this to Luke, the first chapter. We'll just get it real quick. Luke, the first chapter, and then we're going to pick it up at 78, 78 and 79. This is what it's comparing. This is the fulfillment of this prophecy part of it. People that walked in darkness have seen great light, that they that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shine. What light is it talking about? It's not talking about the light of the sun, the moon, the stars. It's talking about the light of God. I believe it's the same light in Genesis 1 and 3, but he says, so let that go and compare that to Luke, the first chapter, in the 78th verse. It says, through the tender mercy of our God, whereby the day spring, D-A-Y spring, one word, it's a spring of light. God poured out that light upon a dark people. The people that sat in darkness, they seen a great light. So it says, through the tender mercy of our God, whereby the day spring from on high hath visited us. What for? To give light to them. When God gives you the light of his Son, the purpose of that light is to cause the darkness to flee if you actually receive it. That's what gives us power to make the right decisions, power to become the sons of God. We were children of darkness. We weren't the children of the day until the day spring was sent from God by his tender mercy from on high, and it visited us. So it says, the 79th verse of the first chapter of Luke, to give light to them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet. It's saying the same thing that it said in Isaiah, but this is fulfilling some prophecy. To guide our feet into the way of peace. When that light shines, it shines to guide our way, to show us our path. That's why Proverbs said the path of the just, of that light, the day spring, the path of the just one, is as the shining light. It's shining more and more unto the perfect day. The more you receive of the light of God, the brighter you're going to shine, and the more the darkness has to flee. It doesn't have a choice. The more, and matter of fact, well, I won't get into that yet. To give them light that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet, what? Into the way of peace. When that light came into the world, he visioned the second chapter, fourth chapter, one said he came and he preached, he spoke the light, he preached peace to them that were afar off and them that were nigh. When you receive that preaching of the light of the day spring from on high, that when you receive that into that dark vessel, that darkness has to flee, and then you become a beacon of light. So let all that go, and let's go all the way back to Jeremiah, the 4th chapter. And you remember how, and Genesis, the 1st chapter, it's a twofold meaning. There's a natural creation, and when you look at that natural creation, you're going to see a spiritual creation that was coming in time. And there's a lot in there, but you remember how it starts out in verses 1 and 2. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. in a capital S, the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Those two verses has a natural and a spiritual picture that we were also without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. When God sent that day spring from on high, that darkness began to flee, and then we could walk in the path of the just. But listen, and this was what Jeremiah was talking about in the 4th chapter, 22nd verse. He said, "For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children. They have none understanding." The light was there, but they rejected the understanding of God. Anytime you begin to reject the understanding of God, your path is darkened. You get off course. And it said, "They have not known me. They are sottish children. They have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge." That the goodness of God, the light of God, the knowledge of God, they didn't want it. So when he beheld the earth, what do they say in the 23rd verse of the 4th chapter of Jeremiah? He said, "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form." The earth didn't lose its form. It didn't go back to naturally being nothing or naturally being void. He was looking at a spiritual meaning of Genesis 1 and 2. 1st chapter 1 and 2. "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void." What did he just say? My people, they have no knowledge. They're ignorant. They have not known me. They're sottish children. He's telling what that means in this context. I beheld the earth, or the people, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens. He's interlocking the earth and the heavens, the people, where life is. And the heavens, they had no light. He wasn't talking about the sun, the moon, the stars. He wasn't talking about it all just went dark. He was looking at the heavens of people, the earth of people, their habitation. It was void of understanding because they rejected the light and knowledge of God. So it says, "I beheld the earth, lo, it was without form and void." What form didn't they have? They didn't have a form of God. They weren't obeying God. When you reject the light of God, you are formed into a vessel of darkness. That darkness doesn't have to flee when you reject the truth. But when you receive the truth and begin to walk in it, the darkness has no choice but to get out of the way. And he said, "The heavens, they had no light. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man. All the birds of the heavens were fled." He's painting a picture naturally of their spiritual condition. So let all that go. You can see where the earth of people, they were out of course. They were out of line with God. They weren't. Well, let's just get the other one. It'll go great with it. Psalms 82. Psalms 82. Now I know I'm going to just get off for just a second here. We're going to pick it up at Psalms 82. I think Brother Jamie here is putting on some of these links to YouTube. Now, and here's another one. So look at comments, get on there. Wait a minute. Yeah, get on comments, look at these, and I'm going to have him bring them on this Sunday night. He's doing some teaching on, you hear about people talking about, how the Satan fell from heaven, and Isaiah 14 about what they call Lucifer that supposedly was in God's heaven. He's doing a great, I think a 5, 6, 7 part teaching or something on that whole subject. The devil, how he fell from heaven, the angels that sinned. It's all in there. So go those, check them out. Now Jamie's not always agreed with me on Genesis 1 and 3. That's all right. I still love him. He's my brother, even though he's wrong on that. But we'll just go back to Psalms 82. So we just got done saying that the earth was without form and void, didn't have the light of God. The heavens, they had no light. Psalms 82 and 1 says, "God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods, the people." Lowercase g. "How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked?" They were accepting darkness, wickedness. 5th verse. "They know not, neither will they understand." Why? They refuse to listen to God's light, to God's word. They walk on in darkness. That darkness did not flee for them. They loved it because their deeds were evil and they rejected the light of God. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. They didn't have the right form. They were void of understanding. The heavens were dark. They walked on in darkness. That's just basics of the Bible when you reject the light of God. Remember Genesis, he's talking about he divided the light from the darkness. Let's see, what's this? Brother Brian say, I've studied on the light, and it is a good study with deep meaning. Absolutely. I'm still trying to figure out things and dig it out. Anytime you got something, throw a nugget on there, some verses. I'll be glad to look it up. I don't know, Brother Brian, you believe that? And you can disagree with me, it doesn't matter. You believe that Genesis 1 and 3 could have been talking about Jesus, or you don't have to answer that. Anyway, so they walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. He said, I have said you are gods. You make your own decisions. You rejected the light. You formed yourself in darkness. They became their own gods. And he said, but all of you are the children of the Most High. They had an anointing that God wanted them to accept that light. They had a purpose. They were all the children of God, but they rejected the light and they made themselves into be their own gods, lowercase g. But what did he say? He said, you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth. There's that earth of people again. The earth was without form and void. For thou shalt inherit all nations. Let all that go. So we can see where the world was dark. Isaiah said the light was coming. It came in Luke. Jesus came, that light come into the world. Let's just go ahead and get St. John 8. I believe it's 8 or 12. St. John 8 and 12. Jesus spake again and said unto them, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but he shall have the light of life. That light that you walk in is life. That's why I get so sick and tired of hearing these eternal security doctrine preachers. They believe you can walk on in darkness. You can be without form and void. You can continue on in darkness and have not the knowledge of God, just completely ignore it, and somehow you're sealed in eternal life. When this is saying, but shall have the light, they're walking in the light of life. You have to walk according to the light of God. You got to stay in the path of God. You can't walk on in darkness and have the light of life. It's impossible. So Jesus came a light into the world. Let me see if I can grab one more place here. Well, I'll let that one go. Not sure where that one is. So this is what I want to get to now. So, and again, my sermons always tend to go to against eternal security. What did Brother Brian say? Absolutely. Yeah. We're on the same page. Very good. That's, yeah, matter of fact, we'll get that too. St. John 1 and 1. That's a very good one for this subject. And I quoted part of St. John 3rd chapter, 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He gave that day spring, that light. And as a matter of fact, let me just get it before I quote it wrong. Right below St. John 3:16, in the 19th verse, it says, and this is condemnation, that light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light. If you love darkness, it won't flee. You'll abide in it. You'll continue to sit in darkness. They love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. He that doeth truth cometh to the light. The path changes. The darkness has to flee. The closer you get to God, the brighter you become, and that darkness gets less and less, that his deeds may be made manifest that they are wrought in God. St. John 1 and 1, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Absolutely. Genesis 1 and 3 God spoke the word, and the word was God. I like that. That's good. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him, in Jesus, in that word, in him was life. What else was in it? And the life was the light of men. You cannot separate the light of God and the life of God. When you get out of the light of God, you leave the life of God behind because you go into darkness. When you dwell in darkness, there is no light of life. These eternal security creatures make me want to vomit all over the place because when I hear them say you can walk on in darkness and have the blessings of God, they're insane. It's not possible. So what's he say? 5th verse. When you begin to go back into heavy darkness, don't get me wrong. Every time a person makes mistakes or does something stupid and they get forgiveness, I'm not saying it's a yo-yo salvation where you're in and out, in and out, in and out like 50 times a day. I'm not talking about that. But I believe a person can leave the path of the just. They can leave that light of life and they can continue on in darkness for a permanent or a long-term derailment if they choose to. And there is no salvation when you purposely choose to walk away from God for a long period of time. I cannot say a person is in the light of life, nor are they in the blessings of God. I believe a person can make a mistake, many mistakes, and I believe they can get back. But when you make that decision to walk on in darkness, that's where you leave the path of God, and that's where life is. And here's the key to 5th verse. Right after it said, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, it says, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Well, when you get on down to the 12th verse, after he said he came to his own received him not, what didn't they receive? They didn't receive the light of life. They didn't receive the power to make the darkness flee. So when it said, but as many as did receive him, they received the light of life. They received the path of God, the instruction. They begin to be formed into the image of God through the knowledge of Christ. What he says, many as received him, to them he gave them power to become the sons of God, even them that believe on his name. Let's get, let's get Romans 6. Romans 6. This is how, remember, the earth was without form and void, darkness was upon the face of the deep. Romans 6. Now remember, when they received the day spring from on high, the light of God, the word of God, faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of God. When they received him and they ended up getting power to become something, a different creature that they were not, that creature of darkness was beginning to flee, put to death on the cross. And there was a new creature coming forth. That was Jesus Christ within them. And that makes them now to where they're not without form and void anymore. Romans, the 6th chapter, 16th verse. He says, know ye not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom you obey. Whether of sin unto death, sit in darkness, reject the light, or of obedience, receive that, get the power to become the sons of God, or obedience unto righteousness. Now watch the form and the void go away, to where now you're not without form and void. Now you actually have God abiding within you, and that's the key. That's the miracle that people don't see, is if you can actually get that light of life to abide within you for a habitation of God. That's salvation. That is the evidence of salvation, that you've been changed, that you've been redeemed, that now you're not without knowledge, you're not without form, and you're not void of understanding. You're actually showing yourself. Bible says, prove your own selves whether you be in the faith. Now you're proving yourself that you're walking in the light of God. That's the evidence of salvation. When you go back out in darkness, you become void of understanding. You get blind again. You can't see clearly. You get off track and you wander out in darkness. Now you're out of course again, just like Psalms 82. But God will bring you back to the path of the just. So Romans 6 and 17 says, but God be thanked that you were the servants of sin. You were in darkness. You were without form and void. But you have obeyed from the heart. We receive Jesus in the heart. You have obeyed from the heart. What do you say in Romans 10? For with the heart man believeth unto salvation. That's what real salvation is. So he said, but you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine. That light of the gospel is what forms us into a child of God, and it forms Christ in us. Galatians. Galatians. Is that 4 or is that? Yes. Galatians 4. 19th verse. Just get to it. My little children, gave him power to become the sons of God. My little children, now we're children, of whom I travail in birth again until Christ be formed in you. When we receive that form of doctrine, that light of the gospel, that's what forms us into a new creature, and that because that's what forms Jesus within us. That's the evidence of salvation. It's a change of path. It's the path of the light of life. So he says, but God be thanked that you were the servants of sin, but you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine which was delivered you. God delivered that day spring from on high to give them light that sit in darkness. What did he give it to us for? Is to get that form within us to where we're not form and void. Have obeyed from that heart, form of doctrine which was delivered you. What's that do when you obey it? Not just say a prayer and say, I believe it, but obey it. It says, being then made free from sin, you became servants of righteousness. Oh, it's all good. Let all that go. Now, Job 18 and Psalms 34. This is inevitable. If a person chooses to sit in darkness and not come out of it, I don't care if you were saved when you were 5 or 40 or 50, 80, it doesn't matter. After you say that prayer and you make the different moves and even you become obedient, when you go back into your disobedience, like Paul said that he would be a transgressor again. When you get out of course and you go again back to being without form and void, and you go back out into darkness, just listen to these couple verses. This is going to be Job 18. Yeah. Now, before I read this, go to Matthew 6. For the sake of time, I'm not going to get into it tonight. I'm already at probably about a half hour. We all have a form of light in us. You can go back and read the, King of Tarshish, Nebuchadnezzar, different ones, and Ezekiel, Tyrus. There's different ones throughout the Old Testament scripture. It says they corrupted themselves with their brightness. God said that he would put their light out. And I won't, for the sake of time, I won't go back and get into all of them. Even Lucifer, meaning light bearer, or however you want to say that. Everyone has a form of light, but that form of light is very deceiving, because that is the job of Satan's messengers, is they are transformed into angels of light. And I think that's where a lot of people, where is that? A lot of people are deceived in that. And I don't want to get too far into that. If I can't find it, I'll just quote it the best I can. 9, 10, 11. There, yeah, okay. 2 Corinthians 11:14. Well, no, goodness. 12 verse. 2 Corinthians 11:12. But what I do, that I will do, that I may cut off occasion from them which desire occasion. And wherein they glory, they may be found even as we. Listen to what this says. For such people are false apostles. What are the apostles? What is their job? What is their anointing for? It's to bring the true light, right? Brother Jamie was preaching on it the other night. Let me just hit it real quick. The true light. Again, this is 1 John, 2nd chapter, 8th verse. Again, a new commandment I write unto you, which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is past. The darkness had to flee. The darkness is past, and the true light now shineth. That true light is God's light. There is a false light. There is a false light, a fake one, a duplicate. Satan's always trying to mimic God, and when he does that, he'll bring a form of light, but that light is actually darkness. And I know that sounds odd, but that's what it is, and we're getting ready to read it. He that loveth his brother abideth in the light, and there is none occasion of stumbling in him. So there's a true light. So 2 Corinthians 11:13, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. There's a false light, it's a deception. That's his purpose. That's his job, is to deceive us into believing that that light that's coming forth from the false apostles is true. Eternal security. All day long. Once saved, always saved. It's twisted just right by a few little scriptures, and people eat it up like the fruit in the garden. A lot of people don't even know they're preaching it, but that's what it is. Anyway, therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness. They're not righteousness. They're not light, but they're ministering something that looks like it. Whose end shall be according to their works. So let that go. Now I want you to go to Matthew 6. And '21. He says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. It says, the light of the body is the eye. And if therefore thine eye be single, it's focused, seeing clearly. And you got double vision. It's not double-minded. It's focused. He says, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Well, then what's he say? If therefore the light that is in thee, it's light, but if that light that is in thee be darkness, oh, you've been tricked. You've been thinking that you've got some light, that you're okay like you are. But that light that's in you is actually darkness. We're trusting in it. Satan's angels, Satan's messengers, false apostles, deceitful workers. They make people think that what they have is the light of God. It's an easy salvation. It's an easy road, and you'll never be lost. That's Satan speaking all the way from the garden, the forbidden fruit. They're good at it. Oh, they're good at it. So what happens? If the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? You can't, then the very next verse says, you can't serve two masters. One of them's got to flee because the other one's not going to stick around while you're sitting in darkness. And now he'll call for you. He'll try to lead you back. He'll try to give you the instruction that you can take it and have that power within you to become a child of God again. But you can't sit in darkness, serve two masters, and take his salvation with you. It's impossible. Boy, I don't know how. It always goes back to that eternal security trash. So let all that go. Now I want you to go back, and I got to come to a close. I was trying not to get long-winded tonight, but that didn't work. Job 18. So let's just say you sit in darkness and you never come back. You think you're okay. You got a form of light. You got a form of godliness, like Titus said, but you deny the power thereof. It's foolish. What's it say? Now remember, the wicked, they're darkness. How the whole body's full of darkness, right? What's it say? Job 18:5. He says, yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out. Well, I thought they were walking on in darkness. I didn't think there was any light to them. They've got something. They've got a light, but that light is darkness, and that darkness is going to have to flee. Listen to what it says. Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out. The spark of his fire shall not shine. They have a shine to them. Looks good. They got a form of it, but they deny the power thereof. It's fake. It's deceiving. So what happens? The light shall be dark in his tabernacle. There it is again, just like Matthew said. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. They think they're okay. They think that they're good old boys and girls, and oh, it's okay. I believe in God. They have something in them that believes something, but it's full of darkness. The light that is in them is deceiving. It was put there. They took it for a reason to justify themselves. And they walk on in darkness, trying to shine the best they can. Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out within him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. Jump right on down. Oh, there's so much in this. Yeah. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. He shall be, listen to this, he shall be driven from light into darkness. When you make the decision to leave God, to stay in darkness, live in darkness, die in darkness, and think you've got salvation, the light of life, what does it say? The light in him is darkness. His candle is going to be put out, and what's 18th verse say of the 18th chapter of Job? He shall be driven from light into darkness. When the Son of God appears, he's coming back in his glory. The brightness of the light of God is going to shine in the earth again, and the wicked, they're going to have to flee. What's it say? He shall be driven from light into darkness and chased. Where's he going to be chased from? Listen very closely. And chased where? Out of the world. The world's going to abide forever. Ecclesiastes, first chapter. One generation comes, another goes, but the earth abideth forever. This is ours. We're going to inherit it. Well, I'm not going to get it tonight. I got to come to a close. But what's it say? He's going to be chased out of the world. Two more places, I think, and I'm going to try to come to a close. Psalms 34. No, Psalms 35. And 4 reading down. Let them be confounded, let the people of darkness. Let the people be confounded and be put to shame that seek after my soul. Let them be turned back and brought to confusion that devise my hurt. Now remember, they were chased from light into darkness. They were chased out of the world. Listen to what this says. Let them be as the chaff before the wind. Let the angel of the Lord, let the angel of the Lord chase them. That darkness, if it's not fleeing out of you today, if you've not made the decision to get the light of God in your life, to be formed in the image of Christ, to get the darkness to flee now, one day if you sit in it long enough, you're going to flee with it. Let the angel of the Lord chase him. Chase them. Let their way be dark and slippery. Let the angel of the Lord persecute them. What is the angel? It's the messenger. We're giving the message of light. If you reject it, you abide in darkness and you'll be chased out of the world. And that is what we're going to try to end on in Matthew, the 13th chapter. And I'm not going to go into this whole thing. I'm going to get to the meat of it, and I'm going to try to stop. Matthew, the 13th chapter, and the parable of the seed sower, the whole thing was great. 24, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in his field. There's good seed and there's bad seed. There's two seed sowers. And that's all that's in the earth ever will be, is either good seed or bad seed. And 30th verse says, let them both grow together into the harvest. Well, you go back and you read in the 39th verse says the harvest is the end of the world. And that gets rid of a lot of other doctrines. But let both, the good seed and the bad seed, grow together till the harvest, or the end of the world. And what's going to happen when they both grow together into the end of the world? Stay in the same chapter. 39th verse. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world. The reapers are the angels. Let the angel of the Lord chase them out of the world, out of the earth. It's going to happen when the Son of God comes back with his holy angels. We're the messengers now preaching to people. Get darkness out of your life. Get the light of life. Get on the right path. Because one day when the Son of God comes back with his holy angels, that message is going to chase them out of the earth eternally. So what's it say? The Son of Man shall send forth his angels. Well, 40th verse. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be when? In the end of the world. The harvest is the end of the world. Let both grow together until the harvest. Son of Man shall send forth his angels. Let the angel of the Lord chase him. And they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity. It's gathering darkness out of this kingdom, out of this world, out of this earth. And what's going to happen? And shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. That darkness in the end will have to flee no matter what. It's up to you if you want to go with it or not. Then when the angel of the Lord gathers the darkness out of the kingdom and chases it out of the earth, out of the world, what's going to happen right then? The next verse. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun. There's that light. In the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear? Let him hear. Anyway, I hope it's been a blessing tonight. Again, don't forget, go visit Jamie Adams' broadcast there on his main page. You'll see his church page. You'll see his different videos, I think, on Wednesday nights. So check those out. Be with us Sunday night at 8:45-ish. We're going to get into some prophecies on Christmas, the coming of the Son of God. And we'll see where it goes. If you got questions, come on the broadcast or text in, put some verses on there. Give us some questions. We'll address them. Thank you for watching Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Don't forget, you have a better chance of going to heaven if you share the broadcast and tell somebody about it. Until next time, you've been watching Christian Crossfire, and I am your host, the Red Rooster. See if I can get a little crow tonight. A little weak, but not horrible.